Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show, home improvement and maintenance tips from the pros.
Welcome to the Handyman Pros Radio Show Action Edition, where we feature feedback from you, our listeners. And I'm here with my old buddy, Larry. And Larry, what has been going on?
John, this week I actually did some work for my lovely bride. Finally, we had discussed this, and we'll probably do this. I'm going to throw this out as a challenge on the air. We are actually going to have our wives on to do a show one of these days, and they're going to talk about life with the handyman. So part of that life with the handyman is that the handyman's house gets the least amount of attention, right? So the plumber's house always has plumbing leaks in the handyman. So anyway, I actually did a job for my wife the other day. I hung new closet-made wire shelving, right? And we thought it was time to do a quick little story on upgrading your wire shelving. So I think, would you agree with this, John, that almost all new houses, relatively new houses, have wire rack shelving unless they've had custom closets?
If you don't specify anything, if you're building a home, I've had two homes built. And if you don't specify anything else, you're getting wire racks.
Yeah,
they're in and out, man.
Yeah, binga, binga, binga. So yeah. One of the things, and that's what my house had. It had wire racks in it, and one of our problems is that number one, it was the older wire rack, and it didn't have what they call is the closet-made term for it is the super slider, right? So it's this continuous rod up underneath it. Did not have that.
Yeah,
old school stuff. It had the brakes in it, And number one, we didn't like that. And because we were consolidating two houses and we were trying to get as much space as possible. And the second thing was that I didn't notice this until I actually started taking it apart, but I've seen it multiple times because I've fixed this multiple times in clients' homes, is it was starting to pull off the wall. And it was starting to pull off the wall because they had those traditional, what I call the traditional hangers, where they drill a hole in the wall and they stick it in and they stick a nail in there that spreads out the T's in the back behind the drywall. Anyway, terrible way to put any kind of weight on it. It just doesn't hold that much. So I'm doing my thing and I'm looking for options, and I've always liked the rail type systems that I'm going to use. The closet mates sell them just for the garage, where you put up a rail and you have adjustable shelves and they fit in, and they actually had the wire racking that fits in the shelves on these rails. And for a long time, they only sold them in the garage. And I thought, man, that's the ticket right there, because if you're not happy with the way you have your shelving, you can change it. You just change the shape of not change the shape, but you unrack the thing and then you put it down lower, you make it higher. You can customize your shelves. So I'm down looking at this stuff the other day, getting ready to do this job, and lo and behold, they've come out with this product for inside the house. Basically, it's white, not gray in color, is what it is.
So it doesn't look like the inside of a garage.
Correct. It doesn't look like the inside of the garage. And so what this product is it's basically you put up these tracks, right? And the tracks are horizontal to the top of the ceiling, and then you mount these vertical rails in it, and then in the rails are the slots, and you can change the shape of your closets via about 1 million different customizable things. So I'm reading the instructions, as I often do, before I bought these, on how to put these things up, and they're like, do yourself a favor and attach these to the studs. Now, the instructions in the box will say put them in with an anchor, but when you go through the YouTube videos, they're always like, put them on the studs, put them on the studs. And I'm like, if I put them on the studs, they're not coming down.
Well, yeah, absolutely.
Or if they're coming down, we got a bigger problem.
Especially with all the weight you put on them.
Right, exactly. So I'm looking at them and I'm like, then I get into the cost thing. How much does it cost? And I'm like, geez, this is just kind of marginally, a little more expensive versus the benefits of having a fully adjustable shelf. Anyway, long story short, I put these things up. I got to tell you, folks, if you are getting ready to change your shelves out, or you've ripped the shelves out of your walls, consider putting up these tracking systems that allow you to change your shelves, because number one, the install actually is much faster than the install for drilling each individual hole to put those little holders in. The money that you'll save in the install time alone is worth putting these things up. I bolted them. I bolted the top rail. I found this. I have a stud. We have stud finders, right? So I found the stud finders. I attached the top rails into the studs. I think I had to drill one hole in the racking to make it fit, because their holes aren't spaced perfectly well for the. I centered it on the wall. Anyway, long story short, I drilled one hole in that and then drove screws into the studs there. And then I put the rails straight down the studs. And you don't have to space them 16 inches. You can go a little wider than that. And so I put them on 16 because I wanted one on every stud. I'm a fanatic about it being strong. But wow, what a difference. And then we went in and we put in shelving and we adjusted the height. And I'm tall. The wife is not as tall. So she gets the bottom hanging shelf, right, which is we're a little higher than normal, but mine's way up because I can reach way up. I don't need. So we increased our storage space in one closet probably by almost a full a full 1.5%. So where we had 100 items in, we now have 150 items in, and we changed our ability. Like now she's got a shoe rack and all that stuff that. Whatever, but she's happy. I'm happy. Everybody's happy. So I would suggest
you've got your own shoe rack then too, Larry, right?
Yeah, that's called outside underneath the bench. Yeah, that's
next to the nail polish.
Right. That's where my shoes get relegated to, outside. But that's mostly because they're kind of nasty when I come home from work. But John, you were contemplating this. Do you have any questions about this stuff?
I don't. I'm going to be looking at it because it sounds like a great. It sounds like a great upgrade. Now, we were talking. The sky's the limit on closets, just like everything else. But for it sounds very reasonable. It sounds like a great upgrade. I mean, I've got all those wire things. I've made them work for all these years. But I like the idea of being able to, and I hear what you're saying is that the increase in the, in the efficiency, utilization of the closet would be much better than what I've got right now, because I could rearrange the whole thing.
Yeah, and the other side is if you don't like it, you can take it down, or you can change it, whatever. You're not stuck. That's the one thing I always hated about the other ones is where they are is where they are. And then you have, and you know this, John, you've taken these things down. How much drywall repair do you have when you take them down?
I couldn't believe, some of the things that we fixed on these wire racks, on these wire, that classic garbage that they put in. Those fasteners that you had described earlier.
Right.
Boy, what a joke those things are. I mean, you put 5 suits on that thing and you're done. It's going to fall
pulls out.
But so let me ask you this: so you can find these in the big box store. These systems.
Yep, they're out there. The ones I particularly use were Closet Made. I think there are other brands. I know there's other brands. So you can look at them, but they are integrated systems as far as the parts for each individual brand work really well with the other parts from that brand. So you it's tough to mix brands, but they're still very reasonably priced. I mean, for what it is. Now, it's not a super high end. It's not there are some really fine, really really nice cabinet grade stuff that you can get out there. Significantly more money, obviously, significantly more money, and I'm not any of that stuff. Not at all.
Yeah, then that's what I was saying earlier is that we're not really talking about. I mean, sky's the limit on doing closets. Okay, there's people are making their business around closets.
Right.
But for most of us that just want to upgrade that wires garbage that they put in there. This sounds like a great way to go. It sounds like it's very reasonable and very functional.
And it's a pretty easy install as well. So it's very DIY-able. We'll call it that. So
perfect.
Right. Well, anything else, John?
That's it.
Don't forget to join our Facebook group. That's at Handyman Pros. Join the conversation. You can send us emails, questions at handymanprosradioshow.com, or you can follow us on Twitter at Handyman Radio. Ladies and gentlemen, if you've enjoyed this podcast and have derived some value from it, here's 4 things you can do. 1, tell your friends about this podcast. 2, hit subscribe on your podcast player. While you're there, leave us a review. 3, subscribe to our newsletter by going to handymanprosradioshow.com and click on the subscribe button. We'll inform you of upcoming events, shows, and give you actionable tips for maintaining your home and property. And 4, send us an email with your questions to questions@handymanprosradioshow.com. That's handymanprosradioshow.com. That's our show for this week. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next week on the Handyman Pros Radio Show.